this panel, how to diversify finances that are rooting for SMEs. Our moderator for today is the advisor of GTR Venture, Jasmine Ng. Hi, Jasmine.
Hey, Lorraine, how are you? So good to see you.
Hi, I'm good. Nice to see you again too. How have you been since our last virtual meetup?
Good, and you're looking as gorgeous as ever.
Oh, thank you. It's actually the makeup. I don't wake up looking like this. I can assure you that. Our panelists are also made up of the Vice President of Fintech and Islamic Digital Economy Division of MDEC, Norhizam Abdul Kadir. Hi.
Hi, Lauren. How are you?
I am good. Thank you for asking. And how is your morning so far?
I'm good. And I do look like this when I wake up.
I like that. I like that a lot. We also have the CEO of microLEAP, Noel Fernandez. Hi.
Hi, Lorraine. How are you?
Hello. I'm doing good. And how are you doing? How's the pandemic been for you?
Well, I think we've all had our challenges, but thankfully things are picking up and we've also got more solutions for our guys. So yeah, looking forward to our session.
Absolutely super. And finally, last but not least, we have Anthony Sheyantha Abeykoon, the CFO at ADS and Executive Director of Aspirasi. Hello, Anthony.
Hi, Lauren. How are you?
I am doing well. And how has your week been?
Well, my week has been the same as usual, hectic, very busy, but enthralling all the same, doing a lot of exciting stuff.
It was good. I'm sure it has been productive. Anthony, might I just add before we begin, you might want to tilt your screen just a little bit lower so we can see a little bit more of you. Yeah, that's wonderful. Jasmine, you know how this works. Whenever you're ready, take it away. The screen is yours.
Thank you. Thanks, Lorraine. Good afternoon, everyone. I know that we are standing between you and lunch and that you are paying full attention to us because it is an exciting time and we are talking about very exciting topic. Alternative financing, meaning you don't need to go to the main financier, which the most traditional people are the banks, to get the help that you need. And I have three wonderful and very distinguished people, all giants in their own spaces, who's going to help you understand and potentially navigate this space and get you the help that you need. So as Lorraine had already shared, I'm going to just invite each of the panelists to share a little bit about what they are doing, especially in the organizations that they are at in this space. We'll start with Engineer Norhizam, and then we'll follow on with Matthew Noel, and then Anthony. Okay, take it away, Hizam.
Okay, hi, Jasmine. Bit of introduction to myself. My name is Hizam Kadir, and I run a division that looks into new growth opportunities at MDEC, in particular Fintech and Islamic economy. Huge opportunities in SMEs, and I think every single country, especially in COVID-19, is focusing on rejuvenating the economy, and that means to bring SMEs back to where they were, or even taking them up to the next level. SMEs, as I mentioned, are a backbone of Malaysia's economy. It employs a lot of people and it creates job opportunities. Hence, that contributions to Malaysia's economy is critical. As of now, SMEs are contributing to about 38% of the economy, and the government wants to look at how we would be able to hit 50%. One of the things, and relating this back to microfinancing, MDEC has a big agenda when it comes to digital inclusivity. For us to continue to ensure that the digital divide gets narrowed. We've been doing a lot of upskilling activities, especially with SMEs, in getting them to be digitalized. Initiatives, grants, upskilling initiatives, education, getting them to be onboarded onto e-commerce, you name it. There are many plentiful opportunities that have been given to SMEs through our initiative and intervention. But when the SMEs, especially the micro SMEs, as they scale, they would need financial support. They would need financial intervention. And these micro SMEs may not necessarily be able to get support from the financial institutions, the conventional ones, as you said just now earlier, Jasmine. And we realized that in order for us to continue our digital inclusivity agenda, the focus on financial inclusion needs to be further emphasized. Hence, we've come up with a strategy starting this year, partnering up with the fintech companies as fintech companies are able to provide alternative, accessible, and affordable solutions, in particular for SMEs. And we can elaborate more throughout this discussion.
Thank you. And Matthew?
Yes, hi. My name is Matthew. I'm the CEO of microLEAP. Handle mainly the daily operations, and also for microLEAP in particular, we are looking at, just as Hiza mentioned, we're looking to be partnering with them as long as together with other partners as well. So yeah, I'm also looking forward to seeing where we can go with this discussion later.
Great. And Anthony? You're on mute. Yeah.
Yes, sorry. Yeah. Hi, you can actually refer to me as Sheyantha, and probably most people here know me as Sheyantha. So I'm the CFO of Axiata Digital, and I'm also the executive director of Aspirasi, and it's in that capacity that I am here. Aspirasi is a alternative credit lending platform that we set up under Axiata Digital about 2.5 years ago now. And the ambition there was to really disrupt the way financing was offered to segments, really micro small businesses that have been actually part of the wider Axiata Digital and Axiata ecosystem for a number of years. So as a telco, we deal with a lot of small businesses in our distribution chain. We also have a well-known e-wallet company called Boost in our family, which has about 150,000 small merchants. And we've developed long and trusted relationships with these businesses. And that actually gave us the initial platform to go out there and think about how we can actually look at this from a more disruptive angle and give financing solutions to businesses that really bootstrap based on their own family and friends and that kind of thing. So to date, we've done about 120 million ringgit worth of disbursement in Malaysia, almost about 20,000 loans, and these range from very, very small loans to medium ticket sizes. About 60% of the customers that we service have never taken a loan before in their life. So they're all new to credit customers. And that's something that we look at quite diligently, because we want to make sure that we are actually delivering on what we said we were going to do. And so it's been an exciting journey, a challenging one as well, obviously with the impact of COVID coming in, but that has also opened up a lot of opportunities and given us a new way to look at how we engage these businesses.
Definitely. Matthew, I'd like to ask you, with regards to microLEAP, how do you access your customer base in terms of the lending, and a little bit about, if you can share the criteria that you look at when you bring in a customer on board?
Okay, sure thing. We have key partnerships. That's our main way of building. And of course, I think as mentioned, COVID definitely has affected the way we've been doing our business. But at the same time, we've also been, from day one, from last year, in fact, we've actually always made sure that we gave as much of a financial inclusive package as possible, because our loan sizes for microLEAP is 1,000, 50,000. And at the same token, we provide microinsurance, because we are a matching platform between investors and issuers, which are the borrowers, the MSMEs. And basically, the microinsurance is one of our key ways of how we can address, including times like this, like COVID. Because basically, it's a group PA on the key person. So in the event anything were to happen, say like a food truck driver got into an accident, had broke his arm and can't drive the truck, obviously, who's going to pay for the financing? Next of kin or the business partners don't have to worry. The microLEAP's microinsurance at no extra cost to the issuer will cover that. Yeah. So, and also at least eBerkat is one of our main partners, and MDEC. And I think that's a passion for both Izam and myself. I think it's safe to say that it's to make sure that we take care of the little guys, and especially, again, at unprecedented times like this. But also MDEC, we have microLEAP Plus, so that's also another key partnership of how we can help the tech companies in MDEC's stratosphere, so to speak. And so that's where I'm really looking at that. Or microLEAP's looking at that. Basically, the key partnerships to help grow ourselves, as well as taking care of the MSMEs out there.
Okay. So Sheyantha, I just wanted to know, 60% of all those that you've given a loan for are first-time borrowers. So how what is the criteria that you're looking at in evaluating their creditworthiness to some extent? And when you get it wrong, I don't know how often that is, but if you can share that with us, that would be great. How do you then circumvent the risks that comes with it?
I think that's a great question. I think, I guess the way we started this is we started it in almost a pilot 2 years ago, right? Before we started it, we spent another 2 years prior, almost about 18 months before that, just experimenting a lot, trying to perfect our credit models, doing a little bit internally, doing something externally with partners. And obviously, we were fortunate that we had a captive ecosystem of customers that we could actually access almost immediately, being part of the Axiata group, right? So that did help us. We do our credit scoring actually it's sort of broad-based, it ranges, right? So for customers who do have some credit profiles, obviously we do access their credit profiles. For customers who are completely new to credit, we usually base it on data that we have, let's say transaction data, some profile data, various things that go into our algorithm. Now that is within our ecosystem, because some of these small businesses have other forms of relationships with us, or it's also, as Matthew mentioned, it's also through partnerships. So we also work with external partners, and let's say in some cases there's an opt-in for there are merchants and businesses who want to work with us, and they do share some data with us. So we have a partnership like that, for instance, with Lazada, which is open to all merchants who are on Lazada. So it's not just restricted. So it actually it ranges. It varies a lot according to the relationship we have. I mean, obviously the ambition is to reach as many people as possible, and at the same time score them well, right? And that's sort of the two levers that we monitor all the time. In terms of our experience, touchwood, it's been good because we took a very, very, very careful approach, right? So if you like, we started with very tight criteria and then opened up gradually once we had sufficient track records. For instance, when we started this, we probably started with businesses where we had perhaps an overload of data, and then as we build the payment track record, we had enough data over almost now a 24-month period to feed into our scoring models and gradually build up our algorithms independent of the data we had. So yeah, I think that's the approach we took, and that really helped us.
Thank you. Hizam,
Yes.
just a question with regards to MDEC, and how is MDEC encouraging within the fintech space this alternative financing, especially for new players who want to come into alternative microfinancing for SMEs? Is there any incentives and support that MDEC gives?
We played a role as a government agency. We played a role to continue to advocate and providing new platform and new opportunities for the SMEs to be able to get access to financing. As Sheyantha mentioned, as Matthew mentioned earlier as well, some of these SMEs, especially the smaller ones, wouldn't have any proper credit history. And it's always a challenge actually for them to be expanding their businesses when they can't get any loans from financial institutions. Least thing that we want to happen is for them to resort to our loans, right?
Exactly.
And that becomes a different story altogether. So looking at the landscape in Malaysia, with connectivity has tremendously improved. Broadband connections has hit 80%. More importantly, smartphone ownerships has hit 80% as well in Malaysia. So a lot of people have access to this device, has access to the internet. What's needed right now is to upskill them, to get them to learn that the device that they're holding, the device that they're using for them to communicate with the children, the device that they're using for them to go and watch YouTube and dance videos on TikTok, that device is also capable in helping them to improve their business. And one of them is through microfinancing. What we do at MDEC, I mean, as a government agency, that awareness, that understanding that fintech companies like microLEAP and Aspirasi are capable in helping them, because it's targeted and designed to help them to be accessing to this micro capital for them to grow themselves bigger without having to go through the same validations or credit worthiness process that financial institutions are imposing on them, right? I'm not saying that it's less stringent, it's just that as what Sheyantha mentioned earlier, the algorithms and the data that is being used to go and validate these micro SMEs are very much different. And we will have to see more of such fintech players coming in, because these are the solution that would then help micro SMEs to be looking at alternative ways in order for them to access and to be receiving microfinancing in an affordable way.
Actually, I'd like to add just a quick point on that, because like in microLEAP as well, we do psychometric testing, which is basically the testing on the willingness to pay rather than just the ability to pay. And that really feeds into our proprietary credit algorithm. So to come up with the scores, because exactly like what Hizam pointed out, sometimes we don't have the credit history, or even they've been in business for 30 years, Pisang Goreng seller on microLEAP, for example, but they've only been incorporated a year ago. But the family business of they've been selling Pisang Goreng for 30 years. So, but how do we assess it? That's how we got to take basically a fuller picture, you know. Yeah. And the fact that they've not taken any financing is a good thing, because also like what Hizam mentioned is we do have video training, which is basically, you know, online video training on basic debt management accounting training. So they go through these modules in BM and English, so it's accessible also. And that at least from there, watching these basic video, YouTube and everything, they actually have they can basically upskill themselves, and more importantly, they're able to handle their financing.
Yeah. Jasmine, if I can add, actually,
yes,
we've been talking so much about assisting Makcik Kia.
Yes,
I think the name Makcik Kia has become very famous, very familiar to a lot of us. These are the target audiences that would then be able to move along in parallel with the rest of the SMEs in equipping themselves with microfinancing to get them to the next level. All right. We have a platform, a movement. I would like to call it a movement, and both microLEAP as well as Aspirasi are part of this movement, together with in total 12 fintech partners to help to improve the financial health of micro SMEs and B40s. So apart from microfinancing, there's also opportunities for them to micro-protect themselves. We're working with micro-insurance and insurtech companies. And at the same time as well, in maintaining future sustainability, how do we invest in a micro way as well? So more information can be obtained on www.mdec.my/eberkat. And that's the latest movement created by MDEC together with the industry. And we can't do this on our own, in creating awareness and eventually to help to increase adoption among Makcik Kia and the likes of Makcik Kia in order for them to be able to compete in a digital economy.
Great. I have a question for Sheyantha and Matthew. Now, given this Makcik Kia, that was my next question, actually. I'm so very timely that you brought her up. You know, Makcik Kia has always been doing business based on cash. And she's always bought her raw materials based on cash. Sometimes her daily intake won't even touch the bank account. So there is absolutely no paper trail with regards to the business that she's been running and the business that her family's been relying on. How do you do the eKYC for such micro SMEs? Because they literally have no digital footprint unless you're sending somebody there to talk to the neighbors and say, oh, Makcik Kia's been in the neighborhood for the last 20 years. And rain or shine, she's there Monday to Saturday. And you know, we get our pisang goreng well and good. Unless that happens, I don't understand how you're going to do the Makcik Kia eKYC. I understand the SME that goes online and does their sales through Lazada. I'm more interested in the Makcik Kia.
Okay, let me have a go at that first.
Sure.
So I think, again, very valid question. I think two things. When we started off, and you're absolutely right? There are certain segments like Makcik Kia that actually is not completely online, right? When we started off, we had a process where actually this was assisted through actually our teams on the ground. And let me elaborate. So for instance, a lot of these customers, a lot of these very, very micro merchants, we're talking about food trucks, you know, even if pasar malams, all that were on our payment platform Boost. Because that was the ambition to actually serve the cashless economy, take the cashless, take the cash economy cashless, right? That was the ambition with our payment platform. So because of that, we had actually some kind of access medium with them. We had actually people, there was some kind of association. Now, when we launched Aspirasi, we realized that for these segments, we cannot just expect them to immediately dump digital and do their eKYC and all that online. So there was a certain element of assistance and hand-holding, right? The eKYC itself, I mean, yes, it's sort of a diluted eKYC, and that's so you have your IC and some basic details that go in. Again, online, sometimes very often it may be somebody's son who's a little bit more. Very often we find, it's maybe a teenager who's a son of a small business doing the application for them, and it's very interesting when we started this process, right? But the interesting thing is, once the first loan is given, the renewal of that loan typically happens online, right? So it's that first baby step that needs a little bit of hand-holding. All right, and to be honest, when we set up our payment platforms with Boost, also that was the same experience. We had to have this assisted model to help some of these people to come online and just to understand. When we launched Aspirasi, one of the first mental thresholds we had to break was the fact that a lot of people thought this is a scam. You do something in 3 minutes online and then you get your money 24 hours. Sounds like a scam to me, right? so there was a lot of hand-holding and education that happened, and that helped. I think the other thing, the last point I say about this, and this is something we saw in the payment space as well. I mean, very often when we take a fledgling industry like fintech, we tend to think of competition and all these kind of things. Actually, we've been, in a number of digital businesses across a number of markets, and generally we find the more the merrier, because all of us are working towards helping people come online, and the more there are people investing in that education, the better for all of us. Because when there are 1 or 2 people actually trying to take people offline right at the bottom of the pyramid, it's a very, very costly exercise. It's a very painful exercise, right? So I think the fact that we have a fairly good and fledgling fintech industry in Malaysia has also helped that process.
Thank you. Matthew?
Yeah, just to add on, definitely hand-holding for the first time round. I think that is spot on there. But also, just to, like we touched on it earlier, the main thing is the fact that the Makcik Kias and all and also they can easily do the alternative credit scoring that we mentioned earlier on the psychometric testing, because that's online. It's English or BM. They just choose between 2 pictures and then it comes up with a score. This score is backdated against CGC, Bank Islam, etc., on the local players as well as some international players. And so that really does help for us, because that actually really gives us a better picture, and we can use that score. So that's part of how we can help the Makcik Kias out there, and we actually say in our credit rationale as well that, okay, this was mainly a cash business, so here's our rating, and because that is really also the other full picture of how we can really try to assess them, because that was mainly what the question you're going for. And I really feel that it's something, if they've never taken a loan in their life, even better, because there's something also that Shay has touched on, is that they build a credit history with microLEAP, for example, or Aspirasi, whichever the case may be. But once you build credit history with us, then that's our credit history then, or if you build a credit history to one of our partners, then that credit history also becomes our credit history, and we can use that. So similarly, if say they've come through the EU SAR1 program from MDEC or AIMS, AIMS Solutions, and then they came to us, and then, at least we know that these people have gone to the next level and now they just need next stage financing, then that's where we can come in.
Thank you. Nizam, I'm not sure if you have these numbers offhand, but okay. It's a really quick one. Do we know what percentage of our total SME industry falls into the Makcik Kia category, where they don't have any digital footprint? It's almost impossible to evaluate on paper or on some form of record with an institution.
Well, if we were to look at the pyramid of SMEs, the term SMEs are rather large. I mean, some of the manufacturing companies can be regarded as a medium-sized company, right? But a large chunk, more than 80% of the SMEs are micro and nano. And these are the category, the groups where Machikiah belong, right? And in the current situation, Machikiah are probably the one that are that are severely impacted because they have to manage cash flow and value chain, the whole entire value chain that Machikiah has been dealing with are probably interrupted as well. The introductions of digital, something that MDEC has been doing for the longest time, through e-Usahawan initiative, through PEDAS initiatives, we realized that the micro SMEs and the nano SMEs would need to get onto the digital bandwagon. Of course, we don't like COVID-19, but the current pandemic situations has sort of opened up eyes of many of these Machikiah. It becomes like a wake-up call that if they do not do this, and we're providing that hand-holding. We spoke about educations and hand-holding to these Machikiah. Government provides intervention. Government provides support, financial support, right? As of now, in order for them to kickstart their digital journey. But as soon as they have kickstarted the digital journey and they started seeing benefits of being in digital economy as they are sustaining, and this is where microfinancing guys come in, right? Yeah. We would love to see more and more SMEs, Machikiahs in particular, to be able to tap onto the opportunities that fintech companies are able to offer, right? And we would love to see participation from larger organizations. Aspirasi is very lucky. You have gotten a lot of support from Axiata, right? We would love to see, for example, other larger organizations, maybe JLCs, or even institutional Islamic bodies. How would we be able to reutilize and use fintech means in disbursing zakat and wakaf, as an example, right? So a lot of work that we're currently doing at the back end at MDEC is also to start, I don't want to use the word lobbying, but creating education to inform these larger organizations that these funds that they have can better be managed. In fact, it is a lot more accurate from the point of distribution, from the point of validations, especially for micro SMEs that do not have any form of credit history. Psychometrics can be a great example, right? And how we can assist in terms of upskilling and creating that awareness and understanding among Machikiah of opportunities that can be provided by fintech players.
Great. So I'm just going to pick up a couple of questions from the crowd, and then after that I'm going to wrap up because we are supposed to close by 12:25. So let me just pick up Jennifer's question. She couldn't put it into the Q&A tab. Jennifer Leong from Alien Logistics. We have a company that's not yet 3 years old. This is a question. And we need financing, but the options available seem to be very expensive in terms of interest rates, from P2P to CGC funds. Their profit margins are only single digits, so they really can't afford these kind of options. And of course, the banks are not going to evaluate them because they don't fulfill basic criteria, right? So what other options do they have? And they are not Machikiah, so they're stuck in a place where it's a trap. They are not big enough for the other financing, but not small enough for government to look at them. So what are the alternatives? I open this up to all three of you.
We'll get the players themselves to answer.
Yes.
Okay, well, I'll take firstly then. For that, I mean, other than P2P, there are ECF. I mean, a fellow's SC RMO. So you could, if they were 3 years old, 2 years old, even pre-revenue, but they have equity to give out, and they have a proper viable product. The founders are at least passionate enough about their company. That's one way I can easily find out. P2P, I think every P2P operator, you've got to actually talk to them, realize, sit down, work out what's best. I mean, instead of just taking a blanket view of saying that everybody's too high, but naturally, any P2P operator has to look after the investors, because you've got to jaga hati the investors as much as jaga hati the issuers, to put it simply. So we have to take it step by step. You got to take it on, again, I think Shay has mentioned earlier, handholding comes back down to that. So you can't just assume everything is going to be a blanket no. I mean, talk to the individual operators, my best advice. Talk to our ECF, because ECF is about equity crowdfunding, right? So the name speaks for itself. Basically, if you've got equity to give, you can raise your funds. So it's not the end of the world, or there are options out there. That's why I'm glad that we've got a supportive regulator, and also more importantly, partners like MDEC and MTDC and SME Corp that are actually willing to put themselves and bring the awareness of the operators such as microLEAP to the fore.
Thank you.
Yep.
Sheyantha?
Yeah, what I can add to that is, I guess, yes, I think what happens with a lot of fintechs is there is a perception that the cost sometimes of financing is quite high. And as Matthew said, especially when you are fintechs also in a bit of a startup game themselves, there is a little bit of that. But I think, at least speaking for Aspirasi, and I'm seeing this across a number of fintechs as well, it's very often, as the portfolios get larger, it's risk-based pricing, it's contextual-based pricing, right? So it varies very much on the applicant, right? And I think I would say just look at all the fintechs online and have until you actually do the application, you don't know because everything is based on the application, that your rate, the terms and all that, you will not know until you actually just go through the application process. My advice is probably to go through that, and you might be pleasantly surprised. I mean, there are, while we target, our lowest loan has been 500 ringgit. We've given loans up to about 200,000 ringgit as well. So we do cater to a wide spectrum, and I'm sure that others do as well. And obviously, the risk return and the pricing also varies with that spectrum. So if I'm just talking about the fintechs, my advice would be to actually just explore and see. Don't have a presumption that it's a sort of a one size fits all, at least in terms of pricing.
I've been pretty impressed by the offerings from the fintech companies, actually. There's a saying in Malay, tak kenal maka tak cinta. I think I would suggest for the person who raised that question to start exploring. And what I have heard and seen from both Aspirasi and microLEAP and the work that we're doing with them has benefited a number of SMEs. Even if we were to be a 6-person service provider, to be getting loans, right? It takes two tango, definitely, right? I would strongly suggest, because if I were to be an SME right now, I would definitely go to these two guys to be able for me to get loans.
Great, thanks. I have one last question, then we're going to wrap. Somebody's wondering, how do our financing SMEs, fintechs, compete with overseas when the microfinancing rates overseas are less than 7%, some. And just wondering with regards to that, how do you view foreign competition?
I think this is an open, if I can answer that, we are in an open market. I'm sure that there will be competitions coming from any parts of the world. But you have to understand as well that the business that the fintech companies are in are a regulated industry. And when it's regulated industry, it comes with security and it comes with investors protection. Yeah. It comes with a confirmation, some form of assurance coming from regulators. The work that we're doing right now through eBerkat to partner up with fintech companies that have gotten some form of endorsement. So it gives that level of confidence, right? It gives that level of confidence for anyone who wants to access to micro capital, anyone who wants to secure micro insurance or to do micro investment. These guys have gotten license and approval from authorities accordingly in Malaysia. So we're not stopping. I think there are many ways for you to be getting micro capital or microfinancing from many competitors outside. But at the same time, do think about the repercussions later on.
Also, I think as Hizam mentioned before on the alongs, basically we don't want that to happen, So that's why I come to a regulatory space, a regulated place. That's, I think, something very important. And I hope, and I can see that even our current regulators, at least I can speak for SC, that they're really supportive of, and I hope that they continue to help us grow within not just Malaysia, but even to help us scale once we, if our aspirations meet up to be a regional player, hopefully. But I think also the Islamic digital economy, that's something we really want to push. Because we are and even my CEO Tun Pidani has pointed out in his previous sessions, this is something that we really need to be looking at, because we're at a precipice almost, and the last thing we need is our neighboring countries, which I'd rather not mention, becoming an Islamic fintech hub when we are primed for it. So hopefully that helps as well. I mean, there's some help coming there to help us grow and to help us compete with these so-called foreign players.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask.
Just one thing on my side. I think my quick take on this. I think competition generally is welcome, as long as it's not predatory in nature. So if you talk about dropping prices and all that in the end everybody tends to lose. But I think both Matthew and Hizam touched on a very valid point. In this industry, where we're talking about actually giving people money, getting repayments, etc. Regulation credibility is very important. So I think that threshold is something, because the industry is regulated, it does help. So I completely agree with that. And each market is different also. The structures are, so for instance, Aspirasi is present in Indonesia as well. And the way we operate in Indonesia, the competitive landscape, even the rate structures are very different, right? So I think it's very difficult to take a particular financing model in one market and just replicate it in another market. So when we went to Indonesia, our model is completely different in Indonesia. So to that extent, there is a little bit of it. It's very dependent on the markets as well, yeah.
Definitely, because assessing credit is very cultural, right? And the propensity to repay is also a very community-based thing if you look at the likes of how Grameen Bank started. So thank you so much, my fellow panelists. I would like for each of you to have a 1-minute wrap-up. We'll start with Sheyantha and then Matthew, and then we'll close with Hizam, and I'll say our goodbyes.
So from my side, from Aspirasi side, I think as Hizam mentioned, we are I think the industry is in a phase where we are rapidly growing. I think we are just at the tip of the iceberg in terms of what we can achieve. And I'd like to thank Hizam and his team really at MDEC for bringing the industry together at a very early stage and getting people like, microLEAP, Aspirasi, and many others together, because I think that's the platform and endorsement the whole industry needs. And because of that, I think we are actually very excited. We look at it as sort of collaboration with everybody right now. And we want to sort of increase the size of the pie as opposed to think about our share of the pie right now. I think that's how everyone should be thinking of. And I think very, very excited right now and looking actually to collaborate with everybody else in the industry.
Great. Thanks, Sheyantha. Matthew?
I'm actually fully agree with Sheyantha. Basically, we're also looking at it more of a collaborative space rather than just pure competition. Thankfully, even our own batch of RMOs, when we were getting a license, are all not competing, which is good. But just to add on, I think, it's, I hope that we get the support we need to grow on Islamic digital economy, but more importantly, just helping the machikias out there, and the push that even Hizam has mentioned before, that we need to try to get even our goreng pisang sellers, the fact that they're going to Grab and Food Panda, these kind of things, basically a pivot to start to embrace tech, And that, because that actually just helps everyone. It helps us, it helps them. And, you know, that's something which I'm hoping that we can, it just moves forward, basically.
Yeah. We can thank COVID for that, but
yeah. Actually, yeah. Yeah. As crazy as that sounds, yes, that's true.
Yes.
We can thank COVID for that.
All right. Well, Malaysia is in a good state when it comes to bank population. 95% of Malaysians have deposit accounts, but there's still a large chunk of Malaysians that are what we call underserved. And this underserved community are those that have low financial knowledge, no clear budget planning as well. And a lot of them, and the Malays say, there's a Malay proverb that says, kais pagi makan pagi, kais petang makan petang, right? And they don't have clear future sustainability. 6 out of 10 Malaysian adults are self-employed or working for SMEs. So they do not have proper formal retirement or pension systems. Yeah. So we look at this as an opportunity for fintech players to come in helping to address Malaysia's financial inclusion. And of course, MDEC is a government agency. We look at it from a bigger picture in helping Malaysia to achieve sustainable growth along with fair and equitable distributions all the way down to Makcik Kia and everybody else as well.
Great. Thank you. I would just like to close on this thought that Malaysia as a whole is in a very good space when it comes to recovery from COVID. Our economy today in the region has a real opportunity as we open up our gates very soon for the economy to really restart. That we should take advantage of this and not just eye Malaysia as a pie, but globally, because once this opens up and we are considered a very green country in terms of COVID, people wanting to deal with us, given the geopolitical situation between China and America, Malaysia is a wonderfully neutral country to do things in and with. I would like to put it out there to all the SMEs. This is an opportune time for the country. We should take advantage of it. The government agencies and government itself is looking to providing every support. And if it is not there, please do engage with agencies like MDEC who are right up front in industry forward initiatives with MOSTI and so on to push what support you need. And with that, I'd like to thank Exabytes and MDEC for inviting me and our fellow panelists again to have this very interesting conversation. Have a great day ahead to everybody. Back to you, Lauren.
Thanks, Jasmine, and to the rest of our panelists as well, Matthew, Norhizam, and Sheyantha. Thank you so much for coming on board with us here at the SME Digital Summit 2020. I thought it was a very, very good panel. You guys did really, really amazing. I'd like to thank you so much. We appreciate all your effort, your input, and we hope to see you again very soon. Enjoy your lunch. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Lorraine.
Thank you.
Anytime. Bye, you guys.
Bye.